Hello, Jose.
Hello, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's wonderful to speak with you again. Uh, you know,
Uh,
I didn't know that we would be at this point. You said you were done with mixed martial arts. UFC went and inducted you into their Hall of Fame, and now you're back. How did we get here?
Pois é, né? Então a gente tava.
You know, I said before that I wanted to box for another 2 years, but this opportunity came up to fight in Rio, and I had a lot of proposals, but what's really important is that we're closer to the end now.
Okay. So, again, you were inducted into the Hall of Fame last year. There was that iconic shot of you being introduced. You're very emotional, fighting back tears. Did you think at that point you might have more UFC fights in you?
Não.
No, at that point last year at the ceremony, that wasn't going through my mind. I was training boxing and focused on fighting boxing, and then around January of this year, we started talking to the UFC again, and this all came up.
So, obviously boxing was your big thing last year. You've been wanting to box for a long time. You were very open about your wish to box. Do you believe that there's still more boxing in you even after this opportunity, or have you closed the door on boxing?
Acho que por enquanto a gente dá uma pausa.
Yeah, I was training hard, so now I'm gonna take a little bit of a pause because I'm back in MMA. So obviously I'm gonna have to stop with the boxing for a little bit, but we have a few talks, and once this fight is over, we'll look into getting back into boxing.
Sure. And is this a one-off? Are you just planning one UFC fight, or do you think there may still be more?
Então, ultimate, logo.
When we started talking to the UFC about this, the possibility was doing a new contract, a new agreement. But what I really want to do right now is just show everyone where I'm at, how I'm doing, do this fight, and then we can sit down with the UFC and see how it's going to go.
Okay. Now you had obviously been training in boxing. You were fighting in boxing. But I don't know how much MMA training were you doing in the last year or so. When did you kind of get back to full-on MMA training if you hadn't been?
Não, então tava sendo só boxe.
No, I was purely focused on boxing. I was boxing with, the guys over at the Navy Training Center here in Rio. It's where I've been training this whole time. They're a boxing kind of like a national team. So that's what I was focused on. And I really just delved back into MMA in the past 3 months, basically, for this camp.
Okay, and of course, the King of Rio is back fighting Rio for the first time in almost exactly 5 years. You obviously this was what brought you back, right? The ability to fight in front of your people in Rio.
Então, assim, logo em janeiro.
So actually, when I started messaging Dana back in January, I didn't know when there was going to be a UFC Rio. There was no talks of that. So, I was messaging him and, kind of looking into the possibility of doing another fight, and, wanting to get back into the testing pool so that I could be ready to get in there when there was an opportunity. And it was really just a really good coincidence that the event in Rio was booked for around this time because it worked out perfectly.
And what does it mean for you to be fighting in Rio in front of your countrymen, in front of the people you grew up with, you live with, and all that? What does it mean for you?
Acho que isso fica muito, né, Derek?
Obviously it means a lot. Rio's where, I got my start. It's where I live. It's where I train. It's where my friends are. So it's obviously very meaningful to be fighting here. But, in the end, I want to get in there and do my best and show everyone what I've been doing.
Did the way your last fight went in the UFC, the loss to Merab Dvalishvili, does that have anything to do with kind of wanting to get back in there and maybe be able to go out on a higher note, or maybe in a more entertaining fight, or just be more pleased with your performance?
Assim, Derek, desde daquela.
I don't think it was necessarily the loss in itself. It was just, I needed a break for my body, for my mind. It was a lot of years going hard and going strong and training strong, and all of that takes a toll. And that break came at a perfect time. After that fight, I had a lot of offers from different places, and I said no, and I decided to go into boxing and kind of take a break from MMA because it was needed for my body and for my mind, and now I feel like I've recovered a lot of that.
Now you're coming back. This is 135 pounds. You've been at 135 pounds the last few years. Many people still think of you as the greatest featherweight of all time. Did you consider when you'd come back here moving up to 45 again?
Acho que eu não me vejo assim ainda subindo.
I don't think I'd go back up to featherweight. You know, I've adapted very well to bantamweight, and I think I have, you know, things to do at bantamweight. So I wouldn't say never, but I don't think I would move back up to featherweight. But you know, again, I'm not going to say never.
And this fight, it's you got Jonathan Martinez here. He's on a nice run, 6 wins in a row, 8 of 9 victories here. What's your take on what he brings to the cage and to this fight?
Acho que é um excelente oponente, né? Um cara que
I think he's a great opponent. You know, he's a southpaw. He likes to keep the fight standing. So I like those aspects. But you know, the reality is, I always look at my opponents as if they're the best. You know, I'm not gonna underestimate anyone, and that's how I'm looking at him.
Sure. And then last question I have for you. I mean, now that you're back, I think a lot of fans still want this one dream fight that has not yet happened. Former WEC featherweight champion Jose Aldo versus former WEC bantamweight champion Dominic Cruz. Is that a fight you'd want?
Então, Derek, antes de a gente fechar, né?
Actually, the name that we were discussing before for this fight in Rio was Dominic Cruz. Unfortunately, something happened. I'm not sure what it was. I don't know if he changed his coach or whatever it was. He had some issue and he couldn't fight. So we got Jonathan Martinez, but that was the name that Sean was working with.